on 95.3 FM in Windhoek, Desert Radio. The Bold Voice.
With Alan Jonathan and Charu. Aufura Sedaya. Nah, man, this is one of those jams that make me really proud to be Namibian.
Honestly,
it's only us that can understand this. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely proud, and it's such a classic.
Right?
It really is such a classic.
I love it
me some
For me,
so
it takes me back to Usakos.
Right?
First of all, when I hear that song, I just think of Usakos in my grandmother's house.
No, it takes you back home. Absolutely.
It's 7:32. It is breakfast in the desert on Desert Radio 95.3 FM. We're taking you all the way to 9 o'clock today. It's the 6th of May. It's Friday, so I'm sure most Namibians are of course happy again because it's the weekend. But some actually might be, a bit sad because their long weekend is coming to an end very, very shortly.
Yeah.
But don't worry, hopefully there'll be another one coming again. I don't know when.
Yes, there is one, I think, at the end of the month.
Yeah?
Yeah. So May is a month full of long weekends. So it's a lekker time.
May gives you surprises and gifts, man. Now, you did hear a third voice. If you are not watching us on Facebook, you probably know who we have in studio already. But for those that are streaming us live on desertradio.fm, or for those who are listening to us on 95.3 FM, the third voice that you heard there is the voice of Mercedes Von Cloete, who's joining us in studio this morning just to talk to us a little bit about who Mercedes is. Mercedes, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much. I just wanted to add that Namibia is the country of public holidays.
Yeah, right?
That we want and enjoy us some good chill and off time. So I'm also very excited to be here.
Definitely.
Chilling and having breakfast in the desert.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for coming through, man. How are you feeling?
Thank you
Talk
for
to
having
us.
me. Feeling wonderful. It's Friday. It's May. 2022 came, and I don't know what happened to the first part of the year, but we're here, and I'm very, very, very excited because the remainder of the year seems to have quite the surprises in store.
Hey, that sounds interesting.
Good, yeah.
That sounds very interesting. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Now, Mercedes, we brought you in here to, number one, get to know you a bit and just talk about the work that you've been doing, right?
From 8 to 5 or after 5?
Everything. All of. And the question that we usually like starting with when we try to get to know somebody is a very simple, generic question, right? Who are you? What is your origin story? Talk to us about who Mercedes Von Cloete is.
I think getting to know oneself is an ongoing process. I'm not the same person I was when I was 7 or 13.
Yeah.
Or 24. So where I'm at now, I'm a young daughter of the soil, the Namibian soil. I'm proud to be Namibian and proud to be wearing those colors very proudly. I happen to identify as transgender. I'm a lover of music, little people. I love children so much. I dabble in the creative arts industry. I have been working in the cultural sphere as well. And most recently also in the civil society space. So I love being surrounded by people. That's why I decided to forego my morning routine of waking up with the birds, getting my 9 hours of sleep in. So, born down south in the quiet little town of, well, not so quiet, Keetmanshoop, and found my way to Windhoek and the coast and then back to the south, and have been here for the last, I think, 16 years. Just doing my thing.
Sorry to cut you. Is it safe to say that Windhoek has stolen your heart?
I think Namibia and its people did that a long time ago. Windhoek just has been a very exciting melting pot of all of the diversity and all of the exciting personalities and characters that you can find in Namibia, that you can find in the same space. So Windhoek is really, every girl that comes from a small town really has an exciting, boy or girl, has an exciting dream of going to the city and making it big or doing whatever it is that your heart desires. So, and as the saying goes, follow your bliss and the universe will open doors for you. So I followed my bliss all the way to Windhoek, and I was very fortunate to have worked with in music development with Song Night, developing upcoming talent since 2011. And after that, I had a brief stint with the Goethe Institute where we started Night Under the Stars. So it's been a wonderful platform where artists were able to creatively express themselves, have be able to be paid adequately, because that's another conversation that needs to be had. That the artists are not really valued for the work and the contribution that they make in the country and in general. So, my favorite color is maroon. Thank you for asking. So, I mean, it's one of the most difficult questions to always have to answer. Like, who are you? Like, at what point in my life, or what time of the day? Is it before, after my coffee or tea? That's basically where I'm finding myself at the present moment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think I was just going to say that you've done a lot of work and you are in a lot of spaces. And one of the ones where you are a very loud and formidable voice is the activism space, right? And as you mentioned earlier, you happen to be transgender. So you are something of, the voice for the transgender community in this country. But before we even get into talking about the activism, I just want to talk about your story. Especially in a country like Namibia, which is still very much conservative. What was it like, growing up and realizing that you didn't feel like you were quite in
a place.
in the place that you needed to be, or felt that you were and are as a person? Talk to us about that.
I mean, it's because it's beautiful. I first have to say it's so beautiful what is happening in the country presently, the conversation that is happening, and just how we are able to really find that embrace and that celebration of diversity in Namibia. So it's wonderful that people are coming out and owning their truths and standing in their truths, and that there's a lot more acceptance and embrace of different or minority grouped people. So, I mean, starting out or after coming back from Germany on a little scholarship and having experienced what you might call liberation, I really, it's something that I've always known, biologically born male. Some people are like, oh, so you were born a man. No, I was born a baby.
Yes, a baby boy.
So, but not having the terminology, not having a family that actually also understood it was quite the journey. So I set it upon myself to try and find out, okay, so I was born this way, but somehow I feel entirely another way. So I wasn't able to talk about it, although I lived it for quite some time up until my teens when I started doing research. So as Dad said, okay, so this is what they call a transgender or transsexual. So my decision was finish school, head out to whatever foreign country, go do your thing, and come and surprise, it's me. So after having come back, I realized it's so important, milestone, even if let's say a woman falls pregnant or a guy goes to study, there's some things that you would really like to have your people around. So it was very important for me to want to share that transition and that journey with the people that as my support system that love me, as opposed to going and come back and shocking the hell out of them. So it was quite a gradual process. I made the decision to start transitioning here. It wasn't met with very open and welcome hands. A lot of people did not understand it. A lot of people frowned upon it. And so I gradually, but some things if it's your truth, you have to live it. So I thought, as opposed to wanting to run away, let me find my little space here, because as a Namibian citizen, I'm surely should have just a little piece. I don't own land here, but just a small space in which I can breathe and laugh and enjoy and love. And that's what especially made me go forth with my transition, because I just fell in love more with the space that I was holding inside of myself. I felt more affirmed, this feels right, not how I lived my life or what I was supposed to live my life by. So it started very gradually. For the first 3 years since 2010, I thought, okay, this might be a phase like everybody else is. So I didn't go into medical transition at the time. So I started changing my wardrobe, started taking up more space in my feminine identity, and later on, the one thing led to another, and questions came coming up, and people wanted to find out. So what is this thing? And so that's when I'm an extremely shy, introverted person. I know.
Are you really?
Absolutely.
Wow. Oh wow.
So at the time, I was also resident host of Song Night. So I did a lot of corporate hosting gigs, and so. Yeah, I thought help, because it took some time for me myself to understand. Okay, this is what it's called. So I felt to start sharing pieces of my journey, and that's where it's at. It's been, I don't want to call, nothing about my life has been tragic or a tragedy. So it's with everybody's transition in their life, you find uphills and struggles and battles. By the grace of God, here we are. Fly, fabulous, and still killing it.
Ooh.
Man, I love it. Man, I love it.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And I think that as you mentioned, the receptiveness of people in this country was definitely one of the probably biggest hurdles to go through. And I'm sure that there's two sides of that coin, right? There's the side that was really bad, and then there's the side that was really good and finding community and things like that. So talk to us about, those two sides of how you've been received through your transition.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much, Orlando, for that question, because it is so important that we especially celebrate our support system, the people that celebrate us. Because if you're not welcome in a space or celebrate in a space, you should go to the other space. So I set out to find my tribe, people that were similar to I was, that were also not quite understood or didn't quite fit in entirely. So it was such an amazing journey to have to just find that identity and find people that identify with me and find people that are able to look past and beyond just the superficial or what they've heard or what their understanding, beliefs or ideas around being transgender. It's like I said, it's like a very small part of who I am. So it's been so beautiful to have people really call me to the table, have me at the table, and get to know me so that we can eat together. And I think that is something that Namibia has always been about, that sense of community, that embrace, that togetherness. And yes, apartheid came and did all of its evils and tried to segregate us, but there's something absolutely just beautiful about this country, and it's that community element, it's that togetherness, and it's that embrace and that love. And that's why one of the reasons why they might call us passive, but we're really a peace-loving hippie type of nation.
Definitely.
Hippie type of nation.
and Mercedes, Alana mentioned earlier that Namibia is, even right now, is still somewhat conservative, right? Over the years, just from your point of view, have you seen a sort of move towards not that people need to be accepted or whatever, but to a move towards acceptance of
change in consciousness.
You know what I'm saying, just of something they don't understand. Do you think that Namibians are coming around to just understand things that they might not have grown up with, they might not have been taught about? How do you think the space of transitioning from a conservative nation is
absolutely
moving?
Brilliant question. Well, I mean, when I started to transition, or I started my journey way back more than a decade ago, there were not people like me in the spaces that I moved. Of course, there were people growing up like me that I've known. But in the mainstream spaces where I was and moved in, there were not people. So in mainstream media, you had Mama Africa as a token person. But there were not, and there were a lot of ideas around, this is what transgender people are, and gay people are like this. So people had all of these preconceived ideas, which were often very negative. So I think I took it upon myself, because I really love style. I love looking good, and I think looking good makes you feel good, and vice versa as well. So I thought to change that, because yes, loud I am.
Definitely.
Says the introvert.
But if you have to work on stage and work in front of audiences, you have to be able to project.
Definitely.
So it was something that needed a lot of. I just sit and think about. Well, I don't want to be called that. I'm not like that, And it dawned on me that there's a lot of reasons why people start exhibiting and becoming the way that society expects them to be.
Yeah.
So if this is already the expectation, let me just give you what you want.
Yeah.
So it has really been big uphill battle in terms of just starting to have the conversation, because then after the conversation you have to be able to have the people understand. And in Namibia, with so many different ethnicities, and not everybody is also very English literate, if I can say that. But the beauty of it all is that we have had terminology in our ethnic languages, in our mother tongues of people like me's existence, even before I came here. So for me, it was more a thing of, well, okay, let's stop doing this Namibian thing where we don't talk about the things that are important just because they're uncomfortable. So let's start unboxing taboo. So it was very taboo to be a boy in a dress. So I wanted to be the most flyest boy in a dress, if that's the case. And I don't really live my life by labels and these type of things. So all I knew was I was content in and of myself, and more people were opening up and accepting more. I don't believe Namibia is a tolerant country. I think we are very accepting, and what has been happening that embrace that has been happening. So there's been a lot more people that have taken up space. There's been a lot more color in terms of the conversations that have been happening on and offline. I think the pride marches that have been happening, it's wins upon wins, small wins, but wins nonetheless. So I'm very, 12 years later, sitting here, I'm like, I knew it. Charles. A lot of people say hey, Mercedes, maybe you should just move, get out of the country. And so there was a lot of backlash. A lot of times they would go home, I wanted to pull my hair off, bite off my nails. Okay, if that's what they want. So, but of course, in the morning, you talk to your maker, and as long as there's someone or some people that love you and accept you as you are, I think you can keep it moving and take that next step. And I think that's where we are in Namibia, that next step. And we've got conscious, young, brilliant, intelligent, very forward-thinking youth that are coming up in the ranks. Let me just say that. So, it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time to be alive in Namibia, and a very exciting time to want to be absolutely patriotic.
And speaking on that, Mercedes, just about, young people coming up in the ranks, right? Especially conscious young people. What do you make of the current activism space within Namibia? And this is throughout everything, GBV, for instance, Slut Shame Walk, just general activism within the country. What are your thoughts on that right now in 2022?
From the beginning, I've had an absolute hard time identifying as an activist, because that would, I just feel my contribution has been so minuscule to where the activism space is concerned, because there are people that absolutely have dedicated years upon years in their lives and livelihoods for the cause. So I think I'd like to more think I was maybe just used as a little bit of a mouthpiece to help amplify the voices and the messages of the people around me. And I believe what has been happening in terms of GBV, land, SRHR, what have you not, LGBTQI rights, is that it's something that had to happen a long time ago. I did say earlier that us as Namibians, we might be a little bit passive because we're peace and loving. But there's this active citizenry that is coming up, and it's something that needed to happen a long time ago, where each one says, but also I have got a stake in this country, and how it is going to move and the trajectory it's going to take also depends on me, whether I am just a domestic worker or whether I'm still a student studying somewhere. It's my personal responsibility to get in on the conversation where the betterment of whatever I think is busy challenging or hurting our society is concerned. So I think I embrace it, I applaud it, and yes, I'm not one for violence, but sometimes you have to take up space, not violently necessarily, but you have to take up space space, you have to take up arms, you have to build your community in order for your message to be heard. And I think resilience is a very important thing. I just absolutely hope that we can like get there faster.
Yeah.
And speaking about taking up space and resilience, right? As you said earlier, when you started your whole journey, there were very few people visibly in the visible space like yourself. And I can imagine it was a daunting task at, being so young, having to take up this space, having to speak against voices that are pushing against you. And I can imagine also that took a toll on your mental well-being. How did you power through that? How did you get through that time?
Drank. But that too, of course, you'll have to sit down and like have a beer. It's Friday after all.
Yeah.
And that's thank you again, Arlana, also, because it's so important that we talk about just the mental well-being of us as Namibians in our country. There's so many horrible things that are really happening. That makes me question on a daily basis, like, where are we really at as a collective? Because the truth is we still haven't healed entirely from our apartheid traumatic past. And all of that has been swept under the rug, So with everything that is undealt with, it finds its way right back up in order for it to be dealt with. Daunting is a way to look at it, but it was petrifying. It was scary.
Yeah.
Scared shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can imagine.
It was so scary because I'm socially also very awkward next to being shy and introverted. So it was also hurtful and disheartening because I was in such an exciting space in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm finally doing the things that I've always wanted to do since I was so little. And like it feels so great, and like having people to like crucify you for just living your truth. So like it made me ask a lot of questions around like, what am I doing wrong? How am I supposed to deal with this? And like I think the best way is to really just find your tribe. Find your support. If there's no support, you should know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, number one. So I told myself, am I hurting someone? Who am I hurting? How am I hurting them? And of course, being so young as I was and having grown-ups that don't even know me say all of these things, whether it's in the media or to my face, it was disappointing, but I still believed that there's always been like those people that celebrate you, even if they don't have access to you. They will find you someday and like say, yay, I really love you and thank you so much. And like, yes, you're dope, and that carries you for the next time that you've got an encounter that is, let's just say, unsavory. I'd love to really talk about like how terrible it was, but like it's not terrible anymore. So I'd love to just stay in that beautiful space where people's eyes have opened to a lot of things.
That's true.
Especially also where politics is concerned and how we have been really a neglected country or neglected citizen folk. I'm glad that we're here and that things are a little bit more clearer. People have a little bit more understanding, and there is a lot more embrace. So mentally, it's I think it's an ongoing process. It's something that I personally also have to, on top of whatever else personal stuff I have to deal with, you find your way to pack it in there, and bit by bit. I mean, like, you have to know that you're enough. You have to know that, of course, everybody has got a reason why they're there. There's a task that you have to come perform. And if you're good and if you're kind and if you're respectful, I think that's how I've been raised. So I think things have to generally go good your way. But it's not always the case, and it's in how you pick yourself up. And I think that is what builds the resilience. Take your time out. I've cried ugly crocodile tears for so long. I don't even know. I've shut myself into dark rooms and like, I'm not going out ever again until the world changes. So I've done the full Monty, and of course a lot of times we also turn on ourselves. If things don't go good on the outside, so we start inflicting harm on ourselves. And so I was in that space as well, not knowing exactly how to deal. And so not a lot of people believe in it, but I had to maybe also seek professional help, and I did that, and it helped me to put things into context a little bit. I was able to quiet my mind from all of the crazy and all of the shouting and all of the slurs and stuff, and like just say like, hey, this is your journey. You have made a little space for yourself where in which you can live and breathe and love. So you focus on that. I mean, like, what is now won't always be.
Yeah.
So that's always been what carried me forth.
Yeah. And then I'm also curious about your family, right? We've been speaking on a very macro level, like, in terms of the whole nation and your transition. But yeah, let's hone in a little bit because, you know, your transition is also happening to your family at the same time, right? And again, two sides of the coin. There are going to be those family members that are very supportive, helpful through the process. And then there are going to be those that are very nasty and don't understand and have a lot of questions and perhaps even say nasty things. So talk to us about that. How was your family?
I mean, ignorance isn't always bliss. That much we know. Like I said in the beginning, it's a journey. It's a process. You don't get there overnight. I mean, like, Rome wasn't built overnight. So it was very difficult for me to come to terms with and accept, because if being gay was already such a, oh my goodness, no, you're a shame to the family, abomination. I thought, like, oh my goodness, then I'll have to be walking around with a dress. Imagine the shame I'm bringing on my family. So, in my teens, I started reading a lot about people's lived experiences. And that's where I found out, okay, this is how it works. And like, so I really at some point also thought that there's really something wrong with you. So when the church wasn't able to like help me outside of my just making my spiritual side much more stronger, I took it upon myself to like try and find out. And like, it took time for me to come to a space where like, okay, this is my body, this is my anatomy. However I want to change it, that's a conversation between myself and my maker, you know. So get to that space of acceptance. And so because of the fact that it took me that long, I was very mindful of not being impatient when it came to the people, especially my family. Because at the time, there was a lot of media around just the Mercedes conversation. And so I asked my younger sister, so how do you feel? She was still at school at the time. About all of this that's written about me, and like, what do your peers say? So she said, you know what? As long as you're happy, I'm happy. I love you, and that's all that matters. And that was the only license I needed to run with. So I ran with it, and gradually my other sister and my parents came around you. So it's not, I mean, we barely sit down and have a conversation. Well, you know, I love you, my child, and I want the best for you. In the Black House, we generally don't talk about our emotions. So one is like, what? Whatever, don't come here with that nonsense. So I had to also allow them their time, because we must understand that there's a certain loss that is felt. I mean, I was my father's only son, and we did some pretty amazing things together growing up. So it wasn't easy for him, especially also. And the reason why our parents are so, I think, don't want us to live our truth, especially when you find yourself in the LGBT spectrum, is because there's so much hate. There's so much hurt. There's so much pain and suffering that is surrounding your identity. So it took them quite some time. But now, and also they will struggle with pronouns and things like that. Like, call me she, call me her. And then I realized, you know what? How comfortable am I with myself? Pronouns are pronouns. Yes, I'd love and appreciate them to be respected, but not everybody is coming from the same place where I'm coming from. Not everybody was able to maybe sit in on a conversation like this that we're having. So I tend to understand when people take a little bit of time in order to understand, and especially the ones that want to understand. So it's been an incredible journey. I think like it took them something like 5-6 years. And I'm like, but you have my photos all like my newspaper cutouts all over the house. What do you mean? It's Mercedes and I look fabulous in all of them. So why would you not want to call me by that name or like by those pronouns? And I think that was one of the start of that fuller embrace. So yeah, we're not there yet where I have introduced my knights in shining armor. But yeah, we are in a wonderful space where there is understanding and there is support, and there is that occasional joke. Like, now that I have 3 daughters, so it's beautiful. It was tumultuous. It was crazy. There was no talking. I was like, oh, my family don't understand me. Who do I have? And self-loathing. And of course, we have to come together again, and we did, and that's where we are, and we keep on building on that. And it's patience that's required and understanding from both sides. From both sides, because especially as a youth, we're very fast to like have, as fast as we consume and accept and allow or disallow, we also want that with our parents and the generations before us, but they strolled along on a much slower pace. So I get that, and that's why I'm chilled where that's concerned. But I was just with my older sister 2 days ago, and it was such a wonderful experience to like just commune. So it's beautiful being embraced and accepted and supported and understood. But it's important to first have that conversation. Also stand your ground and say, like, this is my experience. This is who I am. This is how it's going. If you cannot understand that or accept that, I can understand that. But it's not going to change anything. And I think it's especially important growing up, and especially when you've found your independence, to do that sooner rather than later, because the later, the more people's lives get dragged into it and affected.
That's right.
You find yourself getting married, and you're like, I just got married because. So yeah, and that's why I guess a lot of Namibian men would much rather want to have polygamy in the country as a top conversation. But that's a conversation. You can invite me another time for
Yes,
that one.
definitely. Well, Mercedes, thank you so much. We have unfortunately run out of time, but I feel like we could sit and talk forever, literally.
No,
So
really.
It's the time already. I thought I was just getting started.
just warming up.
Just getting warmed up.
well, I know that this is a conversation that we need to keep having.
100%.
So without a doubt, I'm sure we will have you back in studio to unpack more, to discuss more. And you said the year looks exciting, so we must have you back to hear what is in store.
Also, before you leave, maybe a
what
little
is
bit of a
just a
sneak
sneak
peek
peek
or
of-
something.
Well, what I will say is the conversation is going to take a very interesting turn. People have always been wanting to talk about what's going on inside of our bedrooms behind our closed doors. So I think I might want to, with the help of forces, might want to turn that conversation around and throw it out into everyone else's private spaces. How do we get together? How do we commune? Because safety where sexual activity is concerned is another conversation that Namibians shy away from. So that's sort of part of the conversations that are going to be coming up. So I'm excited for that. In that it's going to be informative, it's going to be educational, and hopefully entertaining, if anybody found this chat entertaining.
Which I'm sure they did.
But I'd like to thank you guys very much for inviting me out here, first of all. It's really been wonderful. I think it's so amazing. And like just this little time that I was able to be afforded to be able to share space and share some of my story has already made such a significant impact, not only in my life, but I'm sure in so many people's lives that have tuned in. And I think each one reach one and each one teach one, because we're one Namibia, one nation. And that's how we keep it moving. So thank you very much. You guys are doing amazing, and I'm so excited to be back again.
It's
No, we
been
can't
an
wait to have you
absolute
again. No,
pleasure,
really.
Mercedes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.